Listen up.
If you're up early, so are we. America's Morning News.
So hot.
3 to 6 a.m. on NBC 1260.
And welcome back to Beyond the Curve, providing strategic insights on international business and international law. I'm Jeffrey O'Brien, alongside my co-host, Dr. Adriana Sanford. Also with us are Hugh Wolf and Luis Rodriguez. Let's go ahead and talk now about branding and brands. We all know the importance of branding and the success of any product or business. Tell us about the different types of branding.
Well, Jeffrey, a brand basically brings your product to life. And if you're looking at your image, you want to know and you want to see what kind of an image do you want to portray. If you're Virgin Mobile, you're known for good price, good value.
And a crazy CEO.
Yes, that is true. So that's an excellent example of, anytime they have so many different products, but when you think of Virgin, you think of value. When you think of Tiffany, you think of ritual.
Oh, you shouldn't have. Wait, that's not for me, is it?
It's the engagement ring. For any rituals, you think of a Tiffany ring. Something like that. If you're looking for goodness, you may think of something like the Body Shop. A wholesome approach. There are so many different types of images you can portray. You can be aloof. You can be, snobby, like American Express Gold Card.
Excuse me, I've got my American Express black card, but you guys can use your gold card if you want. I'm covered.
So it's really, these are some of the important points. We can go through a lot of them.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that these are personalities is what you're trying to portray.
Absolutely.
Here. These are different types of personalities that people are essence to receive when they're looking at a brand.
The brand is no more than the promise of an experience.
Yeah.
You have a products and services. It has some benefits and attributes, but you have to find out how that is valued by your customer. Jeffrey, you work in an IT department in a major corporation.
Oh, I'm bitter.
If you buy IBM products, you will be safe and you make sure that stuff works. That's the brand of IBM, for example.
That is the value, but what about the emotional response, which is also big in branding?
And that is one of the key properties, now that you mention of branding.
Absolutely. That's really important. And the first thing that you think of when you finish an exam is Disney. I want to go to Disney.
Correct.
Once you have that hook,
right,
you've got the loyalty, you've got the customer, and it's very difficult for anybody else to break in.
Exactly. What that does is it helps you simplify your decision on what you want. So once those brands are out there, people typically have 3 to 4 brands that they like. So that's your choice set. And that one brand that is going to have that attribute, that has that essence, or going to have that vitality, is going to simplify that decision.
In business, you're going to have the value response to branding, but a lot of people who are just plain old consumers are going to have the emotional response. I know people who drive cars, let's say a Mercedes, because, well, I've always driven Mercedes, and that's my image, and I love Mercedes. I have an emotional attachment, even though maybe that year the Mercedes wasn't the best car they could be driving. They could drive another car, like it more, and say, wow, I'm a Mercedes person.
Once you've got that loyalty, you bring out other products. And guess what? They follow the iPhone.
You just mentioned good brand management.
What you need to realize with that is it has to be relevant to that particular audience, that particular customer. Because if you try something and it works here, don't necessarily think it's going to work in Japan. It's going to work in Chile. You have to be conscious of who your customer is, know your customer.
Correct. That is the first rule, knowing your customer.
Now, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Are you ever done marketing your product? Is there ever a point where you're like, we are so out there, we are saturated, we are good, we don't need any more, let's just let the product carry itself?
No, because what happened is then after you got that emotional connection with the client or the customer, then what you need to get into a share of their wallet.
What's important is also the fact that your brand, you need to make sure that it is always the same quality, and you need to protect that brand. Counterfeiting is one way that all of a sudden your brand starts to deteriorate, and sometimes employees within your company don't realize the dangers of what's going on. They may, when you start going internationally, you may start working in a country and your employees, you need to train your employees to recognize different factors and come forward and tell you if things start to go wrong. Because that brand, it can be a great brand, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you've lost it. And you've lost all the value and the goodwill.
Right. And you need to remember
Brand
that Tiffany
equity.
is not spelled with a PH.
That's right. And that's a
That
good
helps.
point that you mentioned there in reference to the branding goes one way very well for you, but it's a double-edged sword. If you don't protect it, you will not have what is called favorite prejudice that will lead you to the goodwill, that will lead you to the brand equity.
What are some of the things you can do to protect your brand internationally? We're here at home. You know that people across the border are they're faking jeans. They're faking all sorts of stuff and sending it our way. How do you protect your brand internationally?
The counterfeiting of today and the counterfeiting of yesterday are very, very different. When I was back in the days when I was in high school, you'd see the Gucci watches, you'd see all sorts of things going back and forth. The concern and the reason the U.S. government is so involved right now is the counterfeiting of today leads you into other dark areas. You're seeing a lot of terrorist financing is involved with some of the counterfeiting. And it's a very, very dangerous field now, and companies are looking for ways to try to protect themselves. A lot of companies are, the large multinationals are working together. They are trying to set up best practices, and they are looking. We have now a czar, an IP czar in D.C. That will help. The government will shoulder some of the costs. And don't try and do this by yourself. Reach out, talk to an attorney, talk to, talk to people, talk to other companies, and find out what they're doing. And you'll realize there's a network out there now. You can work through this. You can, it is doable, and it's important because it's your brand equity. And if you're not watching, and something happens and it's a safety issue, the laws are changing now. And if you know it's going on, or your employees know it's going on, and you do nothing about it, you can be liable. What I've seen sometimes is a company will go ahead, the executives will go ahead and not want to do anything about it because they say, well, if we tell people out there, if we tell our customer that the product is being counterfeited and it's a safety issue, we may scare, we may cause a panic. So we're not going to say anything. And this is why I'm saying, watch out. You do need to do something because it's a liability issue. And also, if you don't do something, their counterfeit product becomes better and better and better. And guess what? All of a sudden, they come up with a new name, and the market goes that way, and you've lost your market.
Well, something has to be done, because if I see one more counterfeit Jeffrey O'Brien T-shirt out there, I'm just going to lose it.
Where can I get one of those at?
The counterfeit or the real one?
Better buy the real
we
one.
want the real one.
I appreciate that. Listen, we're going to take a break. This is Beyond the Curve. Alongside Dr. Adriana Sanford, Hugh Wolf, Luis Rodriguez, I'm Jeffrey O'Brien. We'll be back to talk about cultural intelligence right after this on NBC 1260.
You're listening to NBC 1260.